There's a story that I've shared before, which is a powerful story by Anthony DeMilo. It's called The Medal. And it's about a story about a woman who had a little boy, and the little boy loved to play, and he would go out all day and play, and he'd run around, and when it was time for dinner and almost dark, the mom would call for him, and he'd be so far he wouldn't come back. It was frustrating to her, and she was afraid for him. So she said, "Son, but if it starts getting dark, you better get in the house because there are ghosts outside, and these ghosts are going to get you." Okay. Anybody ever had anybody tell you something that wasn't true to try to control you? Sometimes with children, you know, sometimes I wouldn't do that, but anyway, it worked for her. So that's Anthony Riley says that's what Mom did, and it worked. Every time the sun started to go down, the little boy's home. Well, as the little boy gets bigger, he's still home because he's still afraid of ghosts. Now Mom wants him to go out and bring in some firewood and help at night and do some things. And he says, "No, remember, I can't go out at night. Ghosts will get me." And so then she thought, crap, what am I going to do now? So instead of telling him the truth, she went and found this little medal and said, "Here, son, you're old enough now, I can give you this medal. If you carry this with you, as long as you have it with you, ghosts will not bother you. So go get that firewood." So now he would carry the medal. And he'd go get his firewood or he'd do anything as long as he had the medal with him. And Anthony DeMilo goes on to say, you know, what's more important? We reach a point in our life when we have to realize, I've held on to these beliefs, I've held on to these things because maybe they kept me safe through a point of development. Maybe I did need to be afraid of certain people, or maybe I did need to do this, or I did need to do that. But your soul wants you to know the truth that there are no ghosts. Your soul is always saying it's time for you to lay down the things that you're holding on to and allow a greater truth to come through. And so we have to ask, what am I holding inside? What belief, what idea, what am I attached to? Even ways that have helped us in the past can become disabling if we do not let them go when the time comes. And so that brings us to a point. The next point is we come to discover and live inside our source connection in faith when we realize what and where are we holding back, or what's holding us back. This week I met with an individual who said, they told me, he said, "I feel like for years I've been carrying around an ostrich-sized egg inside of me. That my soul, that I just know my life is going to change, that I've got more to give, there's more for me to bring forth, and I feel it, and I've been praying about it and working with it, and now doors are starting to open up. And everything in my life is falling apart." And they said, "What am I doing wrong?" Well, have you ever given birth? Yeah. It's messy. It's messy. And as this individual was talking to me, I got an image that I had gotten the day before in meditation. I live in 5 off of 70th. If you know anything about that road, about, 14 months ago, it was just a 2-lane highway. It worked fine. I got where I needed to go. It just seemed to be fine with me. And about 14 months ago, a sign came up that said, "Expansion Construction Project, soon to begin." And then, the next thing you know, there's all kinds of trucks. There's delays. There's potholes. There's dust. There's long delays. Did I say there's big, giant potholes? There's these big steel things in the road. It's just been a horrible, dusty mess now for over a year. Well, finally, they started paving this thing. It's going to be 5 lanes, and it looks beautiful. And I thought, wow, I bet somebody was thinking ahead, saying that they're going to, one day, the day's going to come, they're going to need to move more traffic up and through here. And so, see, from the point where I'm standing, I'm like, it was a perfectly good road. Why did you mess up my life? You may be standing there saying, my life was perfectly good. I like my job, my home, my family, my partner, all this stuff. What are you doing? Why are you trying to put a 5-lane road in here? And your soul is saying, because more is coming through. Remember, more, the magnificent one revealing and expressing in you. More is coming through, and I'm making room in your life, so get out of your own way. And so when we feel like we're being held back or something's holding us back, it's to know that more is trying to come through. That's the way life works, because if it's not expanding, what is it doing? Contracting. And life does not work that way. What we know about the universe, we don't understand it, but what is it doing? expanding. Expanding and expanding. So faith will lead us to discover, what are we holding inside that serves us? What are we holding inside that does not serve us? What are we holding on to that is holding us back? Or what are we holding back? Because the third point, what faith brings us to discover is, before that, a quote. This will lead us to the third one. Brene Brown says, faith minus vulnerability and mystery equals extremism. And she went on to say, even worse, politics. If you have all the answers, then don't call what you do faith. Isn't that powerful? Now, the two words there that we don't particularly like are vulnerability and mystery. Because we equate vulnerability with what? Weakness. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about vulnerability that means the willingness to show up. The willingness to stand for and to be seen in your state of realness. The willingness to show up and be real. That requires vulnerability. And yet that's life. And mystery. How many of us like to predict and control? And that two-lane road that we've been living inside of ourselves, it works. We love that. Well, the mysterious one is saying, you're here for so much more. And it's coming through. And so that leads us, the next point, it brings us to a place where you can come to discover what you carry within you and that which is holding you. Cerny, would you give me that song? There's a great teaching about a young boy that was so frustrated because he felt like he didn't have what everybody else had. He didn't have what it took. He felt like he was a scrawny little wimpy boy. He was afraid, he was skinny. People picked on him. And so he went to see the Zen master. And the Zen master said, I can see that you have it within you to be so much more. And believe me, son, you will. And so what you must do, I will send you to a place where you will find a big, big stone. And you must spend every day for the next 3 months trying to move that stone and learning to surrender. Press against the stone and try to remove it and learn to surrender. And he said, okay, master, but how will I do that? And he said, you will learn how. Just go. And so the boy made the trip, and he found the big stone that the Zen master was talking about. So he got up the first morning, and he was so excited, and he went out, and he started pushing against that stone, and nothing happened. But it's okay. And so he tried again, and again, and again. And he felt like, as the days went on, that this is completely ridiculous. There is no way I'm going to ever move this stone. Ever felt like that? But he would hear the words of the Zen master. Show up. Do what's yours to do. Surrender. And so he would push with all his might through the sun, and all day long he'd push. He'd rest at night, and he would push all day long. At the end of his 3 months, he'd been marking his marks on the stone. At the end of his 3 months, he got ready to make the journey back, and he felt really sad because he felt like he had failed the Zen master. He really still didn't know what he was supposed to do or how to do this. And he walked by this beautiful, still pond, and he bent down to get a thing of water, and when he looked, he jumped, and he looked behind him. There was no one behind him, and he looked again, and he saw the reflection. And the reflection was of a muscular young man. But all those days of pushing and pushing against that stone had called forth something within him. It had developed his muscles. He'd actually grown in ways that he did not even know. And he went back to the Zen master, and the Zen master said, you have done well. You see, in life, when we encounter those things that we feel like, I don't know what to do other than just to keep going. You keep doing what's yours to do, and you learn to surrender. And what's being called forth is more peace, more confidence, more faith, more knowing. Whatever it is you need is being developed as you do that. And so how do we surrender? What does it mean to surrender? These words also came through for you, for us, for me. I surrender the idea that I am alone. I surrender the mistaken belief of that's just the way it is. I surrender the illusion that my mental activity alone can ever figure this out. I surrender every attempt to hide my vulnerabilities or disguise my fear or pretend to be something that I am not. I surrender my misplaced confidence in a limited power supply, and I am open and available to the infinite power of the indwelling Christ, the infinite power and presence that is always abiding in me. I know that if I insist on how things must happen or how they must be, I will never climb beyond my own thoughts or surpass my own limitations. I know there is something in me that is not powerless, it is not limited, and it is never afraid. It is not deficient in any way. It is whole, it is perfect, it is complete. It is all that I am, and I surrender to it. I surrender to that which is within me, for it is greater than anything that is in this world. And so we accept it, we activate it, and we act on it as best we can. And so I want to invite you to close your eyes. Just take a deep breath, and when you do, to literally change your posture, to sit a little more upright. And with your eyes closed, I want you to join me in the song. It's real simple. It says, I am here for God. God is here for me. I am here in faith. Faith is here in me. I am here for God. God is here for me. I am here in faith. Faith is here in me. I am here for God. God is here for me. And I am here in faith. And faith is here in me. One more time. I am here for God, wherever I am, and God is here for me, and I